we're talking to a former British soldier who was subjected to beatings in a Guantanamo Bay-like prison where he was held for weeks in Afghanistan because the Taliban thought he was a spy.
Benjamin Slater was captured whilst trying to help hundreds of his Afghan staff flee the country. Here's Pip Thompson with his story.
Well, we're going to speak to Benjamin directly in just a moment, but first let's go to Kabul and talk to journalist Charlie Faulkner. Good morning to you. You're there, you're on the ground. What is the situation like there at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, there's still a great deal of fear here in Afghanistan. There are, excuse me, thousands of people are still trying to leave the country. There are many, many people still in hiding. The Taliban is trying to promote its capabilities of bringing security to the country. I think it's sort of forgotten that actually it was a major part of the country's instability until it took control in August. We've also seen attacks by the Islamic State in Kabul, Kunduz and Jalalabad. So at the moment, you know, there is some sort of relative calm here. The crime rate has been reduced. The country is more accessible now. I mean, I was moving around in Kandahar, Helmand and Herat a couple of weeks ago. But we've still got this huge fear around women's rights. School children above the age of 12 still have been prohibited from going back to school. However, some provinces are acting independently, and girls have gone back to school in some of the northern provinces. You know, government universities still remain closed. You know, people still can't access their banks, their money in their bank accounts. So there's a huge humanitarian crisis at the moment. People can't even put food on the table. So things are still, you know, incredibly serious here.
OK, Charlie Faulkner there. We're going to leave it. Thank you for joining us this morning from Kabul. Let's talk to Benjamin now. Benjamin, I'd imagine that what you're hearing Charlie say there isn't news to you, and it's what you're hearing from your colleagues who are still in Afghanistan. Can you just explain what it was you were doing out there in the first place?
I was heading up an international development group, and basically what we were doing was supporting primarily women's entrepreneurs, mentoring future female leaders. And we had obviously a multitude of different female-led brands. And within our organisation, it was actually getting quite well known. We had one of the highest employment rates in decision-making positions within the organisation that were women. So we were pretty much quite a potential target for them. And then threats did start coming through to the staff.
So Taliban entered Kabul on the 15th of August. Did you think at that point, right, I'm going to need to get out, or did it take a while and you wanted to stick there to help others? When did you first find yourself being grabbed, basically?
So, I mean, at the start, we were getting a lot of requests from people in the city that needed some help, and we were getting some requests from other governments as well. So we were actually helping others get out of the country. That had obviously their visas or had the support from whatever government. So basically we were busy doing that because we were quite well known for being quite a creative logistics company as well when we were first there. And then, of course, once they were in and then things started taking hold, then my staff sort of started coming to me saying, oh, look, you know, they're coming over to the houses. I'm starting to get letters under the door. I'm starting to get phone calls and stuff through their Facebook. That was obviously when I realised that we need to sort of, basically put our own plan in place, and we need to get people out of here and get you guys out of here.
So you didn't, unfortunately, manage to get out before the Taliban managed to get you. Talk us through that process. Where were you held? What were conditions like? I understand that you were put in a cell with ISIS fighters as well.
Oh, well, I mean, it was a very interesting just over 5 weeks. It really, really was. So what it was is I was trying to get my the bulk of my staff that were, getting the threats and stuff like that out as quickly as possible. But obviously the airport was completely shut, as when I spoke to you last time, and it was completely impossible. So we went down to the border. Unfortunately, we managed to get some staff out. We got obviously quite a lot of people out before, and literally just before I was taken, I managed to get 25 to Australia, working with DFAT on the border in Pakistan. So we managed to do that, and then literally, obviously, they come, and then I got taken.
From a hotel, wasn't it? I mean, it was pretty dramatic. I think you say it was an interesting time. I think people would say terrifying time. You know, tell us how they picked you up.
I mean, look, it was quite obviously. I mean, it was awful. I mean, they come in, and obviously, most of the group obviously panicked naturally. Some of the staff obviously stayed with me, and they're the ones that obviously went with me to the initial jail at Torkham for questioning. But look, I'm trying to basically. I don't want to talk about myself too much because there's a lot of people there still in risk and danger. So.
Right.
Look, it's obviously known now that I was taken to Jalalabad, which was obviously the main interrogation. Basically, you know, I suppose like a CIA kind of interrogation place that happened to have a very small, boutique, not so pleasant jail, pretty much in the basement, and that's where I spent the initial just over 2 weeks. Was pretty horrendous. Yes.
And I understand that you want to sort of shine a light on your colleagues and your friends that are still there that you're desperately trying to get back. But, of course, we need to understand, Benjamin, what the atmosphere and the environment was like for you as well, because that's sort of integral to understanding the importance of getting them out. Because you were held there for a couple of weeks, interrogated, and you were tortured as well, weren't you?
Yes, by definition, I was tortured. So there were obviously multiple beatings. I was obviously hit, struck, kicked, punched. I was woken up all hours in the morning and then dragged out the cell with a bag over my head and handcuffed, and then sat in front of people and asked a lot of questions, then thrown back in. Obviously, the food deprivation was really, really bad. The food was absolutely terrible. Basically, the conditions were really hot as well. For some reason, the jail was really, really hot. I just remember that. And it was almost designed to be extremely uncomfortable. It was overcrowded and cramped. And as I said, you know, look, it's no secret now. I mean, I was breaking bread with Daesh. I was breaking bread with Islamic State, and there were criminals in there. There were obviously mafia people. There were a couple of ex-special forces gentlemen from obviously the previous government that have been obviously caught. And, you know, there were even a couple of Pakistanis. I mean, it was just the most bizarre environment I've been put in.
And for you, I mean, British soldier, a former British soldier now, but as a British soldier would have been tasked with tackling ISIS. Now, suddenly, you're in a cell with ISIS members and you're both considered the enemy by the Taliban. I mean, talk about the shifting sides of the world. And your fear now, as you said, is for those that you work with, particularly the female staff you've left behind, and for the rest of the country who are starving and desperate.
Yeah, I mean, the situation out there, I mean, I've been having a lot of conversations and obviously getting a lot of communication coming through, and we still do have obviously a footprint there. I need to get out, but we are still trying to help while we're there as well. And as I said, look, people can't feed themselves, and people that are lucky enough to have any form of economy can't get their money. And the security situation is completely dire. It's probably the worst it's been over the last several years. And as I say, the Taliban need to step it up, and they need to do what they said they were going to do. And they shouldn't be recognised until they do that. The humanitarian effort, the economy, let the international community in and help that through and go direct to the people. But, you know, the security situation is probably the one thing that the Taliban have any capability of doing. They've got all the kit and equipment from the previous government. I don't understand why we've got this emerging massive ISIS threat and Daesh problem, especially in some of the provinces, and especially in Jalalabad, which was quite obvious when I was there, because every night there was bullets going off and bombs going off. And we was attacked at the border when I was getting put in jail by the Taliban. We were shot at and fired upon by ISIS. You know, it's just ridiculous.
It is. It's a very difficult situation. Benjamin, thanks for sharing your story. We are glad you are home safe, but of course our concerns, as are yours, are for your friends and colleagues that are still out there. The Foreign Office has said that it's continuing to do all it can to help British nationals and eligible Afghan nationals leave Afghanistan, and the Taliban must ensure safe passage for all those who wish to leave, although it's easy to say and not so hard to implement, is it? Because as much as the Taliban want that security and that stability, they're realising it's not as easy as they thought maybe as well. Thank you, Benjamin.